What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and unless you're living under a rock, you've probably heard the unfortunate news that Henry Cavill is exiting the Witcher Netflix series after Season 3. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I have a bone to pick with the entertainment industry, and I think Henry leaving is another casualty of the modern audience curse. But before I begin, if you like the video, consider subscribing and sharing it to give my life meaning, and hit the bell to be notified of future uploads. The news about Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher seems to have had come out of nowhere. It's even more bizarre, especially once I went back and started to read what Henry was saying about his future as Geralt of Rivia. Because not even 1 year ago, Henry was quoted saying that he was absolutely committed to The Witcher for the entirety of its planned 7-season run, and I quote, "Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter for a recent feature, Cavill suggested that he would be up for reprising his role as Geralt of Rivia for 7 seasons if the show keeps going. Though he did have one stipulation. Absolutely," Cavill said in regards to supporting Hissrich's vision, "as long as we can keep telling great stories which honor author Andrzej Sapkowski's work," end quote. And not even a year later, after announcing his undying commitment to playing Geralt, Henry has left. So what happened? Well, I think the final part of that interview is very important, where Henry says that as long as the creative vision honors the books and the author's works, he would be down to play Geralt. And if the television show is anything to go by, the writers seem to be doing anything but willing to tell accurate, great stories within the world of the continent. In my previous video, I spoke about how one of the ex-Witcher writers, Beau DeMayo, recently spoke out about how he was frustrated by his fellow writers on the Witcher series being open about disliking or downright hating the source material. DeMayo is currently developing a revival series called X-Men 97 for Disney+, and he says that he felt it was absolutely necessary to only hire people who were fans of the source material going forward. Likely, of course I can't say for certain, but you don't just go from being the face of a massive Netflix franchise like Witcher less than a year ago to then exiting for no reason. This abandonment by Henry Cavill is likely due to what I spoke about in my previous video, which is the curse of adapting for modern audiences. Henry has always been outspoken about wanting to keep the Witcher story based on the actual books. And that doesn't seem to be the case, with Season 2 very clearly showcasing that Netflix and their writing staff are totally fine with ignoring key plot developments or stories to fit their own vision. And Henry, being a massive fan of the Witcher books and video games, clearly just got fed up with the direction of the show, and he left. I have seen online that some people have said it's because of his return as Superman, or the rumors that he might be playing the next James Bond. But the reality is that these massive franchises like DC Comics or Bond don't just up and make decisions out of nowhere. I mean, it was even reported that Dwayne Johnson himself, who plays Black Adam, fought for literal years in order to get Henry back as Superman. He even goes on to say, and I quote, "We fought for years to bring you back," Johnson said about bringing Cavill's Superman. "They always said no, but for producers Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, and myself, no was never an option. We can't intelligently and strategically build out our DC universe without the greatest superhero of all time, because for us, the fans will always come first." End quote. This proves that Henry Cavill's return as Superman didn't just up and happen out of nowhere within the last year. This was something planned and fought for, most likely even before Henry was even cast as Geralt of Rivia. So the conspiracy theory that he couldn't play both Superman and Geralt is likely a load of BS in my opinion. I mean, after all, Henry left DC Comics and Superman for Geralt after the previous executives in charge of that franchise wanted to go in a different direction, and they didn't even want Henry as Superman. This then led to a bizarre era of DC movies like Birds of Prey, and confusion amongst the DC fanbase as to where Superman was, or hell, if even Ben Affleck was still Batman or not. So much was mismanaged and up in the air that it eventually led to Victor Zaslav having to come in and clean house with Warner Discovery, and likely during this cleanup led to the removal of toxic executives like Walter Hamada from power. who, by the way, was instrumental in the career destroying of Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg. Basically, this is likely what Dwayne Johnson was referring to when he said they fought for years for Henry to return as Superman. And it seems that this is happening again to Henry. Because first he loses Superman and then finds redemption in Geralt, but now history is repeating itself and he's yet again in a position where the people at the top and the writers of the projects that Henry's involved in don't seem to care about the fans and they think they know better than everyone else. This blatant superiority complex that these modern creators seem to terminally suffer from has led to many box office disasters and misfires already. And it's likely because of these writers and executives who for some reason keep adapting and ruining beloved franchises like it's some twisted belief they must uphold in order to push their own ideologies and stories, that it's led to high-profile exits like Henry Cavill's from The Witcher. I mean, just look at the new Lord of the Rings show, The Rings of Power. According to Chris Gore of Film Threat, he allegedly claims that his inside sources have told him that the show's first season was a massive failure for Amazon. And it was such a misfire that Amazon is looking to course correct the show for its second season, and will even sideline its current showrunners for more experienced talent. These things keep happening, and it's because these modern creators don't see value in the source material that they're adapting. They only see these franchises like Lord of the Rings or Witcher as vessels for them to use in order to push their ideas, their politics, and agendas. Shows like The Witcher have tons of potential and source material that's just ripe for storytelling, but unfortunately the people involved couldn't care less. I mean, if writer Beau DeMayo was willing to expose his ex-co-workers that he worked with on The Witcher like he did, it shows that these people in charge seriously couldn't care less about whatever they're adapting. It seems like everything we love, whether it's books, movies, or video games, are simply vehicles for these self-proclaimed modern audience writers to use for their own twisted sense of moral superiority. And if you happen to not like what they're doing, then you're just labeled as not a fan apparently, which is stupid. And now we have our new Geralt in the form of Liam Hemsworth, and I'll be honest, I don't think he's a bad choice. However, this is one of those situations where no matter what Netflix or Hemsworth does, he simply cannot live up to the star power that is Henry Cavill. Like, I'm sorry, but come on guys. This departure and recasting would be like if Robert Downey Jr. just left Marvel after Age of Ultron. Even if Marvel were to recast Downey Jr. in this potential scenario, fans would be livid. And it was worrying even before this announcement because Henry usually posts pictures of The Witcher during its filming, but for season 3, he strangely didn't show much. Also, I guess spoilers for season 2 of The Witcher, but in that season, fans were pissed when the writers killed off Eskel, who, if you're aware of the lore, Eskel survives the books and he even shows up in the video games, which are sequels to the books. But by effectively killing off Eskel, it proves that the writers don't really care about continuity or lore at all. They seem to be more interested in changing something that fits their vision. Now, if someone were to watch the Witcher shows and view them as canon and then go play the games afterwards, Eskel being dead wouldn't make any sense. And this is what I hate the most about these modern audience writers. They seriously do not care about continuity or characters. Everything is just there for them to bastardize or ruin in order to fuel their own ego. And I know some people will defend this and say, well, if they kept Eskel alive, there's nothing to surprise people who've read the books. But the entire reason you're watching the show in the first place is because it's an adaptation of the books. I mean, don't you want to see all your favorite characters, moments, and set pieces in live action? Like, isn't that the point? If you want to add something to the lore of the franchise, then you just make something new. You don't need to ruin what people love in order to make it fit your own self-imposed vision of what you deem as correct. I mean, we do have that new Witcher show coming called Blood Origin, and I already feel dread because not only is it its own thing, but it's apparently a prequel to the main series. So while I'm going to watch that with the hope they don't retcon or ruin anything, I'm cautious as to to what it'll be about. In my opinion, they should have just made a prequel starring Geralt's mom and dad, Vicenna and Corrin instead. They could have built out that relationship and have it tie into the Witcher ethos in a really interesting way. But I am not confident that Netflix will deliver us a solid prequel, seeing as how they don't seem to care about the original work's canon to begin with. Look, Henry Cavill is Geralt of Rivia. He's the sole reason millions of fans even watch the show to begin with. Because, let's be honest, the writing is definitely not the reason most people watch The Witcher to begin with. This loss of colossal star power is effectively the end for The Witcher as a TV show for many fans. And it really is because these studios aren't willing to push their pride aside and just embrace the goddamn source material they've been given on a silver platter. They just have to change it. They crave the need to butcher and distort whatever story or property they get their hands on. And then you have shows like House of the Dragon, which fully embraces the source material to such a degree that not only is it a massive success, but even the author believes the show made his characters better than he did. Because that's what happens when you stick to the source material. That's what happens when you respect and listen to the audience, who are the very lifeblood of the entertainment industry. And I'm heartbroken because I love The Witcher as a franchise. I wanted it to become the next Game of Thrones. I wanted to see a bearded, grizzled, older Henry Cavill fighting the Wild Hunt one day alongside Ciri. And now, unfortunately, it'll never happen. And this sucks, man. It really, really sucks. So in the end, while it is very disappointing that Henry has exited The Witcher, it's also very understandable as well. Henry wanted to tell the story that Andrzej Sapkowski poured his life into when he wrote The Witcher, and Netflix and its writers clearly couldn't care less. Oh well, at least we have The Witcher games, I guess. So what do you guys think of Henry Cavill's exit as Geralt or his replacement Liam Hemsworth taking over the role? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and consider sharing the video and subscribing to help the channel out, and thanks to my patrons as always, and I'm Endymion. Hollywood really needs to get their head out of their own ass before they ruin everything. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.